My name is Cheryl Stock and I'm a social worker with Niagara Region Community Mental Health. Carlos was a client of mine and I worked with him for probably the last 4 to 5 years. He died in May of this past year. And Carlos had a dream as an artist and as just a person that he wanted to be able to use his art to be able to speak to young people about quitting smoking. He had been a smoker since he was 14 years of age. He had COPD when he died, as well as mental health problems related to childhood history of trauma, depression and anxiety. And he had built this really neat piece that he called the ball and chain. He kind of began doing the ball and chain and taking the cigarette packages and folding them and weaving them together over about a period of 8 years, if you can believe it, with all different kinds of packages of cigarettes and all different kinds of colors, and it became sort of this really neat piece of art, but also the piece of art became a message in the end. It represents 8 years of smoking cigarettes and 200 feet long and weighed about 35 pounds and had all these different colors in it. But the colors represented also his chain, and the chain was smoking, and that having COPD, he ended up having difficulties breathing at the end of his life. And one of his wishes and dreams was, over that period of time, that he had been writing articles in his stories and journals. He had tried to quit smoking many times, like a lot of smokers do. So he tried like the cold turkey, he tried the patch, and kind of different ways of stopping smoking, but nothing ever kind of worked for him. And like I said, he started smoking when he was 14 years of age. When he died, he left his journals to me, and the story in his journals kind of unfolded that he really wanted young people to hear the message about don't start smoking, don't end up dying like I did. In this description here, he was talking about one of his attempts at quitting smoking, and he said, "I missed an important milestone on the 10th, and I've reached the 1-year plateau for not smoking any cigarettes. And although this is not the first time I've made it to 1 year, I'm pretty sure it will be the last time to 1 year. The good news is to make to 2 years now, and I'm going to figure out how much money I've saved by quitting. And the savings I have thrown into my food budget, which is a much wiser way to spend the money, would make the difference in my breathing. It would be huge. I would never wheeze or cough anymore. And one of the biggest reasons for quitting was the realization that I was paying somebody to kill me slowly. The other thing that strengthened my efforts was that when someone smoked in my home, the smell combined with me, the feeling in my lungs the next morning, I just never realized like how bad the smell of tobacco was. And whenever I passed by someone smoking, the smell was pungent. When he talked about quitting smoking, he just talked about it really truly was an addiction. And it was addiction that he hated. And like I said, he tried lots of times to try to quit smoking. But it ended up cutting off his life. It affected his breathing. He hated the smell of it. He hated the fact that where he lived, the walls of his place were yellow with cigarette smoke. He hated that his fingers were yellow. And most of all, he hated that he couldn't do things because he couldn't breathe. He had sort of this duality. It's like he wanted to be able to tell young people to quit smoking, and he wanted to be able to go out to high schools and also elementary schools and tell kids not to smoke. But he had sort of this dilemma. He said, how can I go out and tell kids to not smoke and I'm still smoking? Just before he had died, he really had eliminated a lot of cigarettes. He really had cut it down a lot, but not quite down to totally smoke-free. And really the reason had to do with both mental health and the anxiety and stress of all the pain that he was in. And he needed that cigarette because he was so addicted to it, and that's what helped him with pain. I'd say the ball and chain is Carlos's legacy, and it's his dream.